So today let's compare the iPhone 15 with its predecessor, the iPhone 14, because in a world full of very boring refreshes, we have a year-over-year update that's actually pretty major, guys. So let's delve into it. The changes begin right with the design of these phones, because the iPhone 14 for the most part looks like every other regular iPhone we've had for the last few years, with the flat sides and the old notch. But the 15 does bring some major visual changes. You have rounded corners now that honestly don't make a huge difference, but yes, it is slightly more comfy in the hand, but more importantly, we do have thinner bezels with a fancy dynamic island and also matte finish on the back of the device. Now yes, I did criticize the island back when it released with the iPhone 14 Pro, and it's still not a must-have feature by any means, but I can't lie guys, Apple's baking in some really cool animations with the island. Just look at how awesome Name Drop looks. I am a sucker for some sick animations, and I feel like it's slowly being further integrated into iOS, and while you could live with the notch right now, it will continue to become more dated as developers play around with the island for their applications. And by the way, would like to remind you guys, like this video and subscribe for more content like this, it would be appreciated. Do remember last year only the pros had this, but with the mainstream iPhone now gaining this, I'm sure more developers are going to have the incentive to make additional features that are specifically made with the island in mind. So yes, it's slowly becoming more useful on the iPhone. Also, those who use the case probably don't care about this, which is like 99% of consumers, but either way, the silky matte finish on the back of the regular 15s feels so good, guys. It is a much welcome addition to the regular iPhone that gives these phones a slight premium edge, and I don't miss the iPhone 14's glossy finish. That was a fingerprint magnet. Though as I said, this is very much an aesthetic change that adds no functionality whatsoever to the device. And talking about pure aesthetic changes, I do want to say that if we do compare the colors offered between the 14 and 15, it's a bit of a tie, I can't lie. Now I'm really happy Apple finally killed off the horrible midnight and starlight finish. I don't want my black to have a tinge of purple in it. It should just be black, and that's what you're getting with the 15. However, some classic colors we've always had on the regular iPhones like product red and also the standard white option are nowhere to be seen with the regular 15. Also, while the pastel shades are fine and they are growing on me, I do wish the colors were a little more saturated, and so I do prefer the 14's bright red, blue, and that fantastic banana yellow. But hey, at the end of the day, it's just colors. It's not that big of a deal, guys. And last but not least, we have a new port on iPhone 15, which is of course Type-C, yes. After many years of consumers begging Apple to include this, they were gracious enough to finally listen, and they totally weren't forced by a government to include this. But jokes aside, I'm sure this alone is going to be a massive reason to get the 15, because USB-C is common on Macs, iPads, even Android devices, so I'm glad the iPhone finally gets this. I'm actually in a minority though, where I couldn't care less about Lightning, and so this change does not bother me, not gonna lie, but I know for a fact there's only 5 of us who actually don't hate Lightning, so yes, USB-C is a welcome addition. Materials wise though, these phones are identical with the same ceramic shield display that yes is very strong, but also the air can scratch it, so get yourself a screen protector on these phones. And also you have aluminium on the sides, which dents pretty easily to be fair, but at least it's a lightweight material. Both are IP68 rated by the way, so if you do accidentally drop your phone in the toilet for whatever reason, do not worry, it should be fine. Moving on to the display, we once again have some pretty nice changes. So as I said before, the display is slightly larger because of slimmer bezels. That's quite nice, but does not make a massive difference. You also get the island, that's a nice visual refresh. But that's not the major upgrades, guys. No, the big upgrade is 1000 nits of brightness for typical usage, 1600 nits of brightness for HDR content, and a whopping 2000 nits of brightness outdoors. The outdoors brightness especially is a game changer, guys. We had this last year on the 14 Pro and it finally makes these phones viewable in direct sunlight. Now yes, because I live in the UK, we only get sunlight once or twice a year, but occasionally when there is a bit of sun, the higher brightness does come in clutch, and before you say it, I actually don't notice the phone overheating as such when it's pumping out 2000 nits into my eyes. So yeah, this is a very nice upgrade. Performance-wise, you do have the A16 Bionic in the iPhone 15, which actually is not that new because it's the same SoC from the iPhone 14. I kinda hate this new trend of the regular phones getting last year's SoC, but anyways, this is an upgrade over the A15 on paper. It's slightly faster Geekbench-wise, but if I'm gonna be honest guys, this is one aspect where you're not gonna see much of a difference. I think because of the optimization of iPhones, you could probably use an iPhone 12 alongside the 15, and in terms of regular usage, you will not be able to see much of a difference. Now obviously there will be edge cases. If you love yourself some Genshin Impact, you may notice the additional performance gains, but the games I play are Subway Surf and 8-Ball Pool, which runs perfectly fine on $100 Android phones. So yes guys, I really see no difference. iPhone 14 and 15 also share 6 gigs of RAM, and I've never really run into any RAM issues. They manage things pretty well in the background. Moving to the camera, this once again is where the bigger changes lie with the 15 because in every aspect of the camera experience, the new phone does bring substantial upgrades. Beginning with the main lens, it's 48 megapixels. That's a lot of pickles. Though of course, the shots are binned down to 24 megapixels. However, even then, for the pixel peepers out there, you're gonna notice the new phone does generally produce crisper shots with more detail packed in, but that's not the change I care about guys. The main reason I was so excited for the new main lens was because of the 2x crop we first saw with the 14 Pro. Now Apple does falsely advertise this as a 2x telephoto, but at the same time, this actually is pretty much as good as a telephoto because the main sensor is so large on this phone. So yes, if you're going to be zooming into things, you will have to get the 15. It's a major upgrade. Smart HDR5 also makes quite a big difference. We've been complaining for a while that Smart HDR4 on the 14 and 13 produced over-processed images that sometimes look like hot garbage, and thankfully I do see less of that with the regular 15, which is fantastic news. Now unfortunately, the ultra-wide is exactly the same on the 15, so you get no macro support here, which is a feature the Pro phones have had for years. And actually, the regular iPhones have been using the same ultra-wide lens since the iPhone 11. Yes, that was the first iPhone to introduce the ultra-wide, so it's low-key disappointing the sensor's exactly the same because while it does produce decent shots if you give it enough light, in medium light and low light situations, it doesn't produce very good shots, so I doubt you're going to be using this very often. The front-facing camera also did not change, but that's not bad news because I love the 14's front-facing camera and the addition of autofocus, so the selfie lens is just as good on the 15. Video-wise, both also produce very good footage. iPhones are the king in this aspect. Both also have cinematic mode and action modes. And really the main advantage the 15 has is the 2x option. It's so good for zooming into things when recording footage. And so yes, if you really care about zoom, the 15 is the one to get. Also something I've come to appreciate are next-gen portraits. Now the portrait mode itself is slightly better, but it does produce very similar shots for the most part. However, the new thing is the 15 automatically collects the data needed for portraits, and so you can turn most photos into portrait in post, and that guys is super clutch. I no longer have to manually put my phone into portrait mode, which I'm usually too lazy to do, so yes, the phone doing everything for me is fantastic news, and I really missed not having that on the 14. Now the iPhone 15 does pack a slightly newer modem, but to be honest, in terms of real life usage, I've not seen a huge difference in terms of Wi-Fi and 5G performance. Both are rock solid in this aspect. You do get the YouTube chip in the 15 that's going to be handy for features like precision finding for Find My Friends, but aside from that there's no other changes. Both have Wi-Fi 6 and Bluetooth 5.3 support, and yeah, connectivity wise, I rarely have issues on both iPhones. If you're wondering if Face ID is any faster because of the island, no, that's not the case. Both are very similar in this aspect, and the same goes for the speakers and microphones. Here's a comparison for you guys. So here's a mic test on the iPhone 14. Let me know how this sounds. And here's a quick mic test on the iPhone 15. Finally coming to the battery life, Apple on their site claims both phones offer the same exact video playback stat of 20 hours and audio playback stat of 80 hours, and in my testing, it's about the same as well. And that's not the biggest issue, to be fair, because I found the 14 to be awesome endurance-wise. I was getting 7 to 8 hours of screen on time, and the 15 does match that based on my usage. And if you were hoping USB-C would give us faster charging speeds, no, that's not the case. And if I'm being honest, guys, I'm not too fussed about the lack of insane charging speed upgrades, because these phones do get you through the day, and so you're likely going to be charging overnight anyways. Both also have MagSafe as well, and you can use that instead if you wish, though of course, remember the speeds are going to be slower. Another similarity between these devices is the inclusion of crash detection and emergency SOS via satellite. Those could save your lives. I know Apple kind of blackmails us into upgrading for those features, but yeah, they can save lives, and they are nice inclusions. So that's all the main differences, guys. And there's probably two types of consumers watching right now. Those in the market for a new phone, considering the iPhone 14 or 15, or those with an iPhone 14 right now, considering upgrading to the 15. Now, if you're in the former category, straight up, don't think about it, get the 15. The iPhone 14 definitely is not a bad phone, and it's probably going to be just fine for most consumers, but much like last year, it doesn't really make sense in the range, because remember, the 14 was a very minor refresh over the iPhone 13, and so if you're unsure about spending the extra on the 15, just save your cash and go for the near identical iPhone 13 instead. If, however, you can cough up the extra $100 for the 15, it's absolutely worth it in my opinion for the camera upgrades, the design changes, and also the whopping 2000 nits of brightness. So yes, in a nutshell guys, whatever you do, do not buy the iPhone 14. Now if you do have an iPhone 14 right now, first of all, why did you buy one? But anyways, I can see the upgrade to the 15 being worth it because, like I said at the beginning of this video guys, for a year-over-year upgrade there are big changes. However, if you're unsure about the upgrades, you can also wait for the iPhone 16 or newer because, let's be honest guys, apart from nerds like me, most don't upgrade yearly, so yes, you can just continue using the iPhone 14. Anyways, let me know your thoughts in the comments guys, make sure to like and subscribe for more content like this, and thank you for watching.